So the first year that we did Capstone Workshop projects in the Sustainability Management Program was 2011. And since that time, students in the program have completed 89 Capstone Workshop projects. I will have other fun facts at each break. Next up to talk to us about conservation in this region is Evan. Please welcome Evan Carfagno.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Evan Carfagno, and I'm representing my team advancing marine conservation in New York waters through ecological valuation. Our client is the Wildlife Conservation Society. You might know them for running the 4 zoos in the city, as well as the New York Aquarium. You might know, yeah. However, the WCS is greater than their operations. Their goal is to protect wildlife and wild places throughout the world. However, they like to focus on advocacy locally through their New York Seascape program. So what is threatening the New York Seascape? The WCS's challenge is they lack the quantitative economic data to make the case for ecosystem conservation. However, extractive industries and lobbyists have this data readily available and can argue that their activities boost the economy and provide jobs. When our team approached the problem, we aimed to provide an economic valuation for the non-extractive uses of the New York Bight. These numbers would help the WCS bring economic data to the table in conservation with policymakers. If our numbers could help them influence conservation policy, this would allow marine wildlife to flourish and ultimately increase the Bight's value. Policymakers and businesses most often make decisions using economic data, but what are the costs and the benefits of natural ecosystems? These values have become secondary in people's minds, and this project is meant to show that ecosystems do have a value, and that value is significant. Hypothetical situations, like the removal of a predator, require ecological modeling to understand the consequences. One cannot value something if one does not understand the ecosystem and how any small change will have cascading effects. Another challenge is that this type of project has never been done for the entire New York Bight, so there were data gaps and assumptions had to be made in order to create our valuation models. Our project scope is very large. The New York Bight is double the size of New Jersey and stretches from Montauk in the northeast to Cape May in the southwest. Because of our scope and the complexity of the ecosystem, we narrowed the scope to 3 case studies chosen along the WCS: river herring, the shortfin Mako shark, and recreation and ecotourism. For all of our case studies, we use this project workflow. A variety of valuation methods exist, and choosing one or a few depends on the type of ecosystem service you're valuing and the data available. During the process, we ran into some data gaps, but were able to fill some of them using proxies from other peer-reviewed studies. We were also able to identify future research opportunities for the WCS to apply our framework moving forward. The case study that I will use to illustrate an example of our evaluation process is the river herring. River herring is a forage fish, meaning that it does not have a direct economic value, but it supports the broader ecosystem. River herring are threatened by the fact that dams prevent them from swimming upstream to reproduce. For this valuation method, we created a scenario where all dams in the New York Bight with suitable habitat for river herring were removed. But removing dams is not easy. People who live near them would be affected, as well as their property values. In order to create a plausible scenario for the ecological restoration of a river herring, we had to make some educated assumptions. To figure out the effects of dam removal, we consulted experts in ecology and economics, downloaded data for government databases, and combed through peer-reviewed articles. For the cost of dam removal, we adapted data from a case in Maine to use as a proxy. Another proxy we use to estimate the value is the striped bass, which has a commercial value and relies on the river herring as an essential food source. According to experts, we could assume that if the river herring population increases due to dam removal, the striped bass population will also increase. Given these assumptions, we performed a 10-year analysis starting in 2019 and going until 2028 for the scenario where the dams are removed. In talking to ecologists and experts in the field, we determined that an increase in herring population can be expected through 2028 due to increased reproduction post-dam removal. Thus, the striped bass population could be expected to increase as more prey becomes available. Our conclusion was that a higher population of striped bass would increase commercial fishing revenue as well as recreational fishing in the area. Compared to our baseline scenario before dam removal, valued at $7 million, the scenario where the dam are removed and the ecosystem is restored would yield a $68 million valuation because of the increase in commercial fish as a result of the river herring population increase over the 10-year period. Our second case study focuses on the shortfin Mako shark. By being at the top of the food chain, it keeps the food web in balance by keeping prey populations healthy. However, these sharks are considered threatened due to overfishing and bycatch. To value the shortfin Mako shark, we created two scenarios, one where the shark continues to be exploited and one where policy restrictions protect the shark and help its population to rebound. For the protected scenario, we adapted existing data about a survey which asked respondents what they would pay for a chance to cage dive or do other excursions with sharks, which could only take place if the population was able to recover. We estimate over a 10-year period that shortfin Mako sharks in the exploitation scenario generate an approximately $190 million valuation. In comparison, sustainably managing the shortfin Mako shark population creates an estimated value of $470 million. In our final case study, we looked at recreation and ecotourism. Many people visit the Atlantic shores of the New York Bight to enjoy activities such as whale watching and recreational fishing. However, these economic activities can be threatened by declining ecosystem quality. We analyzed the New York Bight's contribution to GDP over the past 10 years in 9 industry subsectors. The data was used to create an economic analysis of the Bight based on environmental quality. We created 2 scenarios, a high case and a low case. The high case assumed that policies are enacted that protect the environment, signaling a high ecosystem quality. The low case assumed an event such as an oil spill had damaged the environment. Our analysis had found that the business as usual case resulted in a $230 billion valuation. Our low case model projected a loss of $32 billion in GDP due to ecosystem decline. If decision makers decide to protect the Bight and create a high case scenario, the Bight will increase value by $38 billion. When looking at our 3 case studies, it became apparent that the scenarios in which the ecosystem is conserved created more value for the Bight. Some of these challenges included the limited understanding of ecological impacts due to human activity, the inherent complexity of natural environment, and imperfect population counts. We also had to decide on a common discount rate among the 3 cases. With more thorough food web models to understand the cascading effects of ecosystem changes and more accurate data of current population and stocks, the valuation process could become more accurate in future projects. Also, given more time to conduct a willingness to pay survey, asking people what they would pay for a thriving New York Bight, we could gather more accurate data for the New York Bight population. More case studies could be conducted to gain a better understanding of other ecosystem services in the future. Despite the challenges, we were able to create a toolbox that the WCS can use going forward to value other species and ecosystems. Since valuation of this type and scale has never been done before on the New York Bight, we've created a jumping off point for future studies to build on and perfect our results. Thank you for your attention. May I clarify any questions you all may have?
Okay, the microphone is coming. There's a question.
Hi. So with regards to the river herring, your proposed solution is to remove the dams. What purpose do the dams serve now, and what steps do you need to take to make up for the loss of the purpose of the dams?
So the issue with the dams is actually most of them were built in the 1800s, where a lot of heavy industry was still in the Northeast. So actually their legacy infrastructure that's really unused and actually is dangerous in some instances. So we're really suggesting to remove the dams. However, it is very difficult due to the fact that a lot of people are attached to impoundments in the ponds that they create.
Okay. One more question on that side.
Going back to the dam removal, you projected 68 million in additional revenue. What is the cost of the actual dam removal? Is that already computed into this 68 million revenue?
Yeah, the dam removal is already computed into that model.
Thank you.
Evan, what about the political consequences of people's homes flooding because of dam removal? Is there a way in these economic valuations to inform them with political considerations?
We decided that was really outside of our scope, but what we would suggest is we need to create a whole nother arm of the WCS to work with policymakers and people who live along the rivers and the dams to figure out ways that we can mitigate flooding without causing human problems.
Okay, thank you very much. Nice job.